Alright everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope everyone's weekend was pretty good. Hope everyone had fun, had a nice chill weekend. I know it's been a little bit turbulent to a degree with all the news going on, but let's not worry about that too much and focus more on a positive note. So last Sunday, both the Euro and the Copa América finals were held, and congratulations to Spain and Argentina for winning both of their respective tournaments. You know, Lionel Messi, the GOAT, defending his pure greatness, further cementing his status as the greatest athlete to ever play sports, although very unfortunate that he tore his Achilles at the last moment and he was subbed out, and he was crying shortly afterwards. That was incredibly hard to watch. But on a silver lining, at least next year we're going to witness Messi officially pass the torch to Lamine Yamal at Finalissima. And as a Barcelona fan, I have never been more excited to see this club again next year, especially the fact that we're potentially going to be seeing Nico Williams and Lamine Yamal's bromance at the club level. So Real Madrid, you better watch out, cause motherfuckers, we are so back. I mean, dude, El Clasico is going to be so fucking legendary with the two squads that are coming next year. Mbappe, Vinny Jr., Rodrigo, and Bellingham versus Lamine Yamal, Nico Williams, Lewandowski, and maybe even Dani Olmo. That is, if we can afford him. I hope you guys were able to save your solar eclipse glasses that you used back in April, because you might need them again with how bright this future is. But anyways, Euro finals, they are what they are. Congratulations to Spain. We're not going to focus on the Euro finals in this video. Today I want to discuss primarily the Copa América finals because, as you guys may have heard, I would say it went pretty well, you know, nothing too crazy happened. It's not like, you know, a bunch of lunatic hooligan fans decided to bust into the stadium and vandalize the shit out of everything. Oh, wait! That's exactly what happened.
Here at noon, chaos during the Copa América final at Hard Rock Stadium after hundreds of unruly soccer fans rushed inside, and boy, did they cause major damage.
Chaos at the Copa América final. Hordes of fans jumped fences and climbed through air vents in order to get inside Hard Rock Stadium.
See the video right here behind us, the pandemonium causing the match to be delayed for well over an hour.
Fans even seen climbing through air vents to get into the stadium. Fans seen running from police, an escalator inside the stadium trashed.
The game was delayed and teams moved off the field. Due to this security threat, seats inside were packed, although some rightful ticket owners were forced to wait outside, not getting into a game they paid a lot of money for.
So yeah, guys, that actually did just happen. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about in this video. So the Copa América final happened this past Sunday, and it was taking place at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. And I've already mentioned this in my Greg Berhalter rant video. Thank God he got fired. But I've already mentioned in that video that the US was hosting the Copa América. And one of the host stadiums of the Copa América was Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. And this is also one of the host stadiums that will be hosting matches of this coming World Cup in 2 years. Will I be going to World Cup matches there? Probably not. I know they're going to be like, you know, really expensive, but if the US does play a match there, I might go and try it out. What's really stopping me is how much those tickets are going to end up costing once the World Cup starts. But this stadium was the host of the Copa América final, and this was a pretty big matchup, not gonna lie. This was actually a pretty good matchup, to say the least, you feel me? Like on one side you got Colombia, who haven't lost a single match for roughly 2.5 years. Since like 2022, and they've been on a hot streak ever since. You know, James is playing like he's back on his prime, and they've also got an assload of talented youngsters in there. And then on the other side, you have Argentina, the reigning world champion, Angel Di Maria's last game until he officially hangs up the cleats for good. What a fantastic career he had. Wishing him all the best. Gracias, Angel. Mucho gracias por todo. Disfruta del resto de tu vida y que sea fructífero. Te quiero. So yeah, this was Angel Di Maria's last game of professional soccer, but they are still loaded with talent, and there's a reason why they are the reigning world champions. And on top of that, the greatest man to ever play the sport, who obviously needs no introduction whatsoever, Lionel Andres Messi. The absolute legend and the GOAT himself still being an integral part of this Argentina squad. Too bad we saw him get injured in the second half. Even seeing him cry like that is just fucking brutal, especially when you're seeing the great one cry like that. Again, they also got the young guns like Julian Alvarez, Enzo Fernandez, Alejandro Garnacho, Lautaro Martinez, and of course, the other Martinez, the one between the pipes and Emiliano Martinez. You also have a halftime show with Shakira, and if I'm being honest, it's probably the only good thing about this whole match if I'm being real. I mean, seriously, Colombia, take this as a compliment, but your women are fucking beautiful. And this applies to all of Latin America. The one thing they have the best of is the women. And there's no denying of that whatsoever. But I mean really, with this matchup that we had between Argentina and Colombia, and the location that it's in, a city where soccer is literally a religion, and the halftime show that they have, with the singer that you have, on paper, you would think that there was just nothing wrong that could happen. This is a matchup of the ages. Problem is, the whole thing turned out to be an absolute clusterfuck, and nothing but a complete and total lolcow. As if we had, enough issues leading up to it and whatnot. This year's Copa América has been poorly mismanaged and has not been run well whatsoever. You've got people like Uruguay's head coach Marcelo Bielsa in his press conferences ranting about it and complaining about how poorly mismanaged this tournament is. Jesse Marsh, who is the manager of Canada, is complaining about it as well in his press conferences. Barely anybody shows up to any of the matches. Most games were, for the most part, boring, with the exception of Ecuador versus Venezuela. I thought that match was entertaining. So many controversial calls and non-calls. The refs were absolute doo-doo feces. The media coverage, especially here in the United States, has been horrific, to the point where it quite literally gives you explosive diarrhea. Piss poor promotion and advertising, garbage playing fields at some of the host stadiums. They still use the turf that was originally present in some of those stadiums, and it's bad enough that we had Aaron Rodgers and Jalen Phillips both getting injured on them. And on top of that, due to how bad the security is, it even got to the point where some of the players went into the stands and began fighting fans. Like, literally fighting the fans. That's exactly what happened in the Uruguay-Colombia game. The Uruguay players were literally busting onto the stands trying to fight Colombia players. There were even non-stop fights that broke out by the players during some of these matches. And speaking of fans, of course, we cannot forget, especially Mexico and Colombia fans, being racist and homophobic to not only some of the players, but other fans as well. All of what I just said, they pretty much have set the script, foreshadowing the finals. So I'm not really at all surprised that this actually happened. Like, I am literally in no way surprised that this ended up happening. The chaos that was the aftermath of the Colombia versus Uruguay match, players breaking into the stands and fighting fans. I'm not here trying to be a Captain Obvious Nostradamus of some sort, but if you simply just connect the dots, it pretty much doesn't take a genius to know that this was going to happen. So what happened during the Copa América finals, and this was early on before the match even started, and this is a sold out, insanely hyped, packed the stadium type of matchup. The hype for this one match was unimaginably high. Like, in my neighborhood, the entire streets were packed with people trying to watch this game. And what ended up happening before the match started was there was a bunch of fans, mostly Colombia and Argentina fans. If you're from Miami, you know automatically that this has a very high concentration and a very high plurality of both Colombians and Argentinians, two countries that already take soccer or football very seriously. So no shit that everybody was going to show up there and there was going to be a shit ton of people there. And again, as mentioned earlier, this is a very big time matchup. So the stadium is entirely packed, everybody is lined up, everyone is trying to get in. There's a lot of parking issues. There's a lot of ticketing issues because so many people were already showing up to this one game, this one match alone. So what ended up happening was, and there are a ton of videos on Twitter/X, a lot of these clips have even gone viral, and I will be showing some of these in this video shortly. So it turns out that there were already a shit ton of people who, the vast majority of which, were all wearing Colombia shirts and were all Colombia fans. Like the overwhelming percentage of which were all invariably wearing the yellow shirts. They showed up to this match without having or owning a single ticket. As soon as the first person, and they weren't even letting any of these people in just yet because it had been too early. A lot of these fans who were already there didn't fucking care. A good chunk of some of these fans waiting didn't even have tickets to even get in, so they weren't even allowed to get in. They just completely busted through security. They went past even like the checkpoints where you have to like, there are metal detectors that you have to go through before you even enter the stadium. They went through the metal detectors, the little things where you have to scan your tickets. They went through the people that scan your tickets. They were just busting through fences. They were climbing fences, just making their way into the stadium, even though some of these people didn't even have tickets. And not only that, to be fair, it was just nothing but free-for-all. Like, these lunatics just didn't fucking care. Like, they're out here vandalizing the shit out of the stadium that I've been in multiple times, even since I was a little kid, before it even became Hard Rock Stadium. Like, this behavior is just absolutely unacceptable. You can even consider it a riot. Like, what we just saw in the Copa América finals can be classified as a riot. And I'm calling it what it is. This is a riot, and nothing more. You cannot go out and bust into the stadium, even if you have a ticket. Number one, you have to wait like everybody else. Nobody gets in and watches the match in person without a ticket. Number two, so if you don't have a ticket, go and sit on your goddamn couch and watch it there. And it is unlawful to run amok and cause absolute chaos for quite literally no reason whatsoever. Smash things in the stadium, play with food in the stadium, throw shit everywhere in the stadium, and basically making January 6th look like a friendly get-together. Like, there's even people, like, playing with popcorn, like, tossing it in the air, doing, like, snow angels. And I could just show you this clip right here to see what I mean. Like, you see right here, like, playing with popcorn, playing with food, just incredibly, unbelievably boneheaded shit that just, like, doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So with all these fans busting into the stadium, whether or not they have a ticket, them trying to vandalize the stadium. Here's the picture right here of an escalator that just was completely destroyed. This is the escalator that goes into the 72 club. And you can see like the glass is broken, the whole escalator itself is broken. God knows how long it's gonna take for that thing to fully work again. To me, it looks like moderate damage, so it might take a while. So you see all this chaos unfolding. You see all these videos on Twitter. You see all these fans acting like complete imbeciles. And it's got to the point where the match itself was actually delayed about an hour, an hour and a half. Can't really remember exactly how long it was delayed. Like, it was originally supposed to have, like, I don't know, a 7:30 p.m. EST start time, or I think it was an 8 p.m. game. So then they had to take all the players off the field for safety reasons, because some fans were even threatening families of some of these players. So they had to delay the match to around like 8:30, 8:45. At one point it was like 8:45, and then it still continued, and then they had to delay the match again. And then finally, the starting kickoff of the Copa América final was ultimately pushed to 9:30 p.m. So an hour, hour and a half, maybe even a 2-hour delay, all because of this chaos unfolding. You have fans climbing the fences, you have fans tackling security guards, you have security guards literally chasing after some of these dudes. There's even this one viral video of Tactical Manager, who was at the match. If you don't know who that is, he is a soccer YouTuber, Brazilian-American guy, who actually went to the game. And he has this one video where he sees a bunch of these fans climbing up to the vent system just to get into the stadium. So just to get into the game, they were going as far as trying to climb up into the vents and, navigate their way to their seats or wherever into the stadium, just so they can get in and watch the match in person.
What is going on here? People are getting into the Copa America through the ventilation system? What is going on here? What the heck?
So yeah, I am not actually making this up. People were actually climbing into the air ducts just so they can get in. And it only gets even worse. There were people who legitimately had tickets that couldn't get in because of all the chaos that was going in. So you've spent, I don't know, $3,000 worth of tickets just to watch your favorite team play. You've pretty much sold a kidney or took the entirety of your life savings just so you can watch the international team of your country, except you weren't able to, and you were forced to watch it somewhere else or watch it on your home instead of actually being there in person, and you have all this money spent just for this one occasion and not being able to partake in it just because of all this chaos. And they were even kicking out people who already had tickets. They were sitting in their ticketed seats and security was literally walking up to them and they got kicked out. Again, thousands of dollars worth of tickets. You spent all of this money, probably sold a kidney, probably took money out of your life savings, and then you just get kicked out by security for something that you didn't do. Like Christ on a stick, this is bizarre. Like this was a complete and total fire festival of a final. I genuinely do feel sorry for anybody who went out and bought tickets, spent thousands of dollars, not just on tickets, but also flying and getting there, and weren't able to go and watch the game, all because of a stampede of maniac fans breaking into the stadium and causing chaos and entering without tickets. Not to mention, completely vandalizing the stadium in the process. I feel sorry for those people who legitimately had tickets and were kicked out, and, families who are taking their kids to these games have to deal with this kind of stuff. Like, I even heard stories of, the kids being just too scared and being completely traumatized just because of these fans completely going nuts. Again, can you really blame these kids? Like me growing up, I saw this a little bit. I've traveled to Europe and, watched games live in South America. There are some countries that, legitimately take the sport seriously and whatnot. And I remember seeing, sometimes live on TV or maybe even in person, of people starting fights. And thankfully, the vast majority of soccer fans that I've met are actually pretty chill. And some of the ultras are nice, friendly, and having a good old time. But there are some that are actually, would start a riot when their team wins or loses. Fights would break out, and that's why you see, heavy security in the vast majority of these stadiums in Europe and South America. And sometimes you see these riots happening and you're like, wow, you guys are taking this so seriously. And I'm scared of you. I'm scared to go to some of these matches and watch them in person because of how seriously you guys are taking this and how angry you're getting about this. And supposedly in South America, it is a normal thing to see these fans go crazy and break into the stadium without tickets and just run amok nonstop, sometimes even threatening the refs and threatening some of the players and their families. And that's not even to mention some of the ridiculously toxic stuff that some of these other fans of color especially, having to deal with this chaos going on. Basically, this just bled into the US, and this is actually, in my opinion, one of the craziest that I have ever seen of this chaos unfolding. Breaking into the stadium, rioting, looting, starting fights, and the people who legitimately bought tickets who couldn't go in or couldn't even experience it or were kicked out or were mistaken as somebody else, as someone without a ticket. It wouldn't at all surprise me if lawsuits are filed all because of this. I mean, can you really even blame any of these fans spending all this money on tickets and not being able to watch peacefully, having to deal with this chaos? I'd justifiably sue too. So, what happened at the Copa América final with all the chaos that ensued? A lot of people are asking, who is to blame for this? Now, I've seen people blame Hard Rock Stadium. I've seen people blaming the city of Miami Gardens. Some are even blaming the US and saying that they shouldn't be allowed to host tournaments like this, all because of this, claiming that they're, not ready to host major tournaments and shouldn't be allowed to host soccer tournaments and don't even understand soccer whatsoever and the passion that it has in some of these countries. Some are even telling us to, stick to so-called hand egg because that's the only thing we can handle, apparently. Me personally, and in actuality, I blame this on Conmebol. They were the ones who operate Copa América. They're the ones who set up the Copa América. They are the ones in charge of it and are responsible for whatever happens in that tournament. FIFA is not in charge of it. US Soccer is not running it. Hard Rock is not running it. Stephen Ross, who also owns the property, is not running it. The United States is just hosting. And the host has no control over the tournament. Conmebol themselves have control over the tournament and are the ones responsible for the tournament. Realistically, you cannot blame the United States for this. And I've noticed that a lot of the Eurotrash on Twitter jumping to conclusions and basically claiming that the US should not be allowed to host soccer anymore. How many comments have I seen of people saying that the US should not be allowed to host any major international tournaments and the US should not be allowed to host any soccer anymore and they should just stick to their hand egg instead because hand egg is the only thing that they should care about. Even though there are international fans of football anyway. Go and watch Tom Grossi's international stadium tour. There's your proof. But I've seen a lot of people accusing the US of putting on this event and that they shouldn't be allowed to host soccer tournaments anymore and that we should just only stick to, American football or as what they jokingly call hand egg because a football is technically speaking egg-shaped, accusing the country of FOMO, even though we used to be mocked for not playing the sport until now recently, thanks for the golden generation of players that we have in 2022, in addition to Lionel Messi coming here, and even as early as the 1994 World Cup, which we hosted, and we didn't have any of those problems. We had good security. And the success that was the 2010 and 2014 World Cups. Look, I get it. I don't think Americans are really used to how seriously soccer is taken from different parts of the world, in Europe and South America especially. However, we aren't the ones running it. We are hosting. Conmebol is running it. And with how this tournament went, they did an absolute terrible job with it. So all the security issues, that's on them. Another blame that I've seen is being placed towards Hard Rock Stadium, blaming the security for what went on. As someone who has been at that stadium, their security has been pretty top-notch. In my so far 23 years of being alive on this earth, I don't recall having a single problem or seeing anything too wicked at that stadium for as long as I've been there multiple times. I don't even think the security was even expecting something like this. And they have hosted major tournaments like this before. It has hosted multiple Super Bowls, most recent one being 4 years ago, before the pandemic fucked everything. It hosts the Orange Bowl every year. College football is wickedly popular in Florida, second largest college football market in America, tied with Texas, and just behind Alabama. The Orange Bowl is one of the oldest bowl games in the nation, and one of the largest and more well-known ones. Super Bowl, biggest sporting event in the nation, 150 million concurrent viewers yearly. That stadium hosted it 7 times, and there's never been any security breaches for those major tournaments. In 2017, when El Clasico was being hosted in that stadium, they had good security. There was no issues when El Clasico came down here in Miami. Again, Conmebol is in charge of putting everything together, including the security. This is not the first time this has happened apparently at a Copa América final. Supposedly, this has happened before, and this does usually happen all the time. And this is pretty much normal in nearly every Conmebol ran tournament, including the Copa Libertadores final, which is like the Champions League of South America. Copa Libertadores had this issue too, with fans breaching stadiums without tickets. And this is supposedly normal in Colombia, which are the majority of fans doing this, as you might see in some of these videos. And not just Colombia, most of these countries of South America. The fact that this is actually a normal thing in Conmebol tournaments, that's a problem. This is not supposed to be a normal thing for them. This shouldn't be a normal thing at all. Most major tournaments don't have this problem. Even the UEFA tournaments like Europa League and Champions League. You don't see fans doing this and running in without a ticket. But it seems like now it's gotten to the point, and it's on another level these days, where chaotic situations like this are now making national, international news even, with how ridiculous and how embarrassing they are, not just to themselves, but for the entire sport. Because the fans are obviously to blame for themselves. They were the ones that caused the chaos. They were the ones that were rioting. Like, not only you're embarrassing yourself as a fan when you pull horrible antics like this, not only you're embarrassing your kids at the game if they're there with you, and not only you're embarrassing your team and the other fans, you are embarrassing the entire sport. You are embarrassing the country that is supposed to host a World Cup in 2 years. This is a World Cup venue. This stadium, this exact stadium, is going to be hosting World Cup games in the next 2 years. And it's just a complete boneheaded look and just an embarrassment. I really do hope people who do this get banned. And I seriously do. And what if you do get banned because of this? What if you're not allowed to attend sports games anymore? Or they have to, delay or cancel the game, and now there's no soccer game where you can scream that your team didn't score a goal, or your team committed a foul, or this referee did something stupid, so you must call him whatever nasty shit you can pull out of the book. You're not going to have a match to go to anymore because you're banned from going to any of them. The match is either canceled or you're banned from attending any match that you tried to attend. You're not allowed to attend any soccer matches anymore. Then what are you gonna do? Have you lost your purpose in life then? To me, this is something that needs to stop. And I do mean it. This needs to stop. And again, I'm not blaming Hard Rock Stadium. I'm not blaming Miami-Dade County. I'm not blaming Stephen Ross, since this is his property. I'm not blaming the city of Miami Gardens. And to be fair, I think Ron DeSantis made a huge mistake not sending the National Guard there. At some point, it did look like the National Guard should have been sent there. But of course, I blame the fans themselves for even doing this. But at the same time, the lack of security and the fact that this tournament was so poorly mismanaged and poorly ran, this is on Conmebol. And at some point, the hand that feeds, which is Conmebol, and because this happens all the time in Conmebol tournaments, they're gonna have to put their foot down and say, hey, we need to put an end to this. We have to do something to stop this from ever happening again and to stop this altogether. We need to end this once and for all. Put some kind of measures in place to punish these fans, increase the security of some of these stadiums, and show some of these fans that there are serious consequences for actions, just like what happened at Hard Rock Stadium in the Copa América final. Again, this is a World Cup stadium. We have much higher standards. The stadium is going to be one of the host stadiums for the next FIFA World Cup. Shit like this should not be tolerated in any way, shape, or form. And in my opinion, something needs to be done about it before the World Cup. It's terrible, and I'm tired of seeing videos like the ones that I showed you guys. Just watching this is just absolutely disgusting. This is just awful. It really is awful. Wow, 1 hour of recording, so you know what? Let me just end the conversation down to you guys. Who do you think is to blame for this? Do you blame Conmebol for how they managed the tournament? Do you blame Hard Rock Stadium security for not being well prepared enough? Do you think the US should still be allowed to host a World Cup after this? Should the National Guard been deployed while this was going on? Do you think this is a learning lesson for when they host the World Cup in 2026? Again, as always, I love ending the conversation down to you and seeing all your thoughts in the comment section down below. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to hit that like button down below. And if you're new around here, be sure to subscribe to the channel and ring the little notification bell. Be sure to follow me on all my social medias. Links are in the description below, including my Twitter/X at Axiom, that is at AXY0M, that is where I am the most active. Share this video around with your friends, families, boyfriends, girlfriends, enemies, whomever. Definitely helps me out a lot, helps the video grow, and helps grow the channel if you were to share this video around with whomever you know. Now, before I go, I want to show you a little bit of a sneak peek of what I've been doing and what I've been working on. Keep this in mind, this might pave the way for some future videos, so here's just a slight bit of what you might see on the channel. No further elaboration.
amalgamated into whatever this abomination is. Until you perished a long ages ago. Therefore, you do not exist.
All right, let's go to the artist hall.
Good job, sir. Words of wisdom. Words of wisdom. Yeah, if you want to see the full clip of that, and if you're very eager about what you just saw, don't forget, subscribe to the channel. If you don't want to miss out, don't be too reluctant to subscribe to the channel and ring up the noties, because you may never know when that video will drop. And that obviously goes with every video I make here on the channel. I'm also open to any new ideas, news tips, and video ideas and topics on what to cover in future videos. So don't forget to let me know on that. But yeah, guys, as always, like, subscribe, ring notifications, and until then, take care, talk soon, and I'll see you guys in the next one. You're awesome.